You can probably hear my dog playing in the hallway. Hi friends, it's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about all of the books that I read in May and June. It's the third installment in what I've read so far in the year of 2025. They're doing them bi-monthly this year in hopes that I'm reading enough to facilitate a bi-monthly video of us talking about what I read, and so far things are going well. So I will give myself a pat on the back. Jumping right in to what I read in May and June. I almost forgot again, like what months is this for? May and June. The first book that I read in May is a reread for me. It's actually nearly 10 years to the day that I read this book, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I made a video not too long ago about all of the unread books on my shelf, and one of them is the finale in this quartet. I read the first three and then just never got around to the fourth one. It came out during COVID and just never felt like the time to read it. So I'm diving back in and rereading the first three since it's been so long. And this is the first one. And I remember really enjoying this when it was pitched initially as a standalone novel, which is hilarious because, as I mentioned, it's now part of a quartet. It is a fantasy. I think it's like a desert fantasy. It reminds me very much of like Middle Eastern desert fantasy, similar to other things that I've read like Wrath in the Dawn, kind of like Aladdin vibes. However, I believe Sabaa Tahir has said that this is based on ancient Rome and like ancient Roman vibes. See that in the way that the Marshals and Blackcliff, which is the like school that they go to for training, kind of runs. It's very heavily militarized like Roman society was, but it doesn't feel Roman in any other way because there's jinns and ifrits. It's definitely not medieval fantasy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. In this first book, we're following two perspectives, Elias and Leah. Leah is the daughter of a scholar family, and at the very beginning of the book, basically her whole family gets murdered, and she flees and is on the run trying to escape the people that murdered her family because they're after information that they think that she could potentially have. She's on the run trying to escape people that our other main character, Elias, belongs to, the Marshals. He is the son of the commandant of Blackcliff, which is again that school that is teaching the most highly specialized portions of their military, and they're the most deadly like assassins in the land. He doesn't really align with the values of the school or his mom. He's preparing to run away at the beginning of the story, and their paths intersect and cross, and we get this epic fantasy as a result of that, with like political intrigue, romance, magic, the other side, like a death capacity. It's very fun, and I think I actually enjoyed this more on my second read than my first read. It's been a long time since I've read this book, obviously, as I mentioned. It's been 10 years, and I feel like my reading tastes have evolved a lot in that time, and this was one of the very first fantasy books that I read when joining BookTube, and so I hadn't been exposed to like a whole lot of what fantasy was. I actually gave it the same rating. I gave it a 4-star, which I gave the first time. I think the first time was like a 3.5 bumped up to a 4, and this time was truly a 4. I really enjoyed this. I did to continue in that series. The next book that we read in May was actually our House Salt book club pick, which was Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. A whole live show on this that I will link above if you're interested and want to check it out. Randomly selected this for book club and I pitched it to them, and it's very rare that they accept one of my pitches. I've given questionable nominations in the past, and also like my reading taste is just so not everybody else's reading taste. Like they all align a lot more, and then I'm like way over here doing something else. I actually nailed this selection. This was a great choice for book club. I just randomly saw it on like a upcoming book list, things to watch out for, and then I saw Kayla from Books and Lala talk about it, and her and I never have the same opinions on books. I often take her recommendations but never actually feel the same way about things as she does, except for this one. This was a great recommendation. I loved this. It was like a sci-fi climate futuristic crisis type of book. We're following our main characters, which is a family. It's a father and 3 children on an island that is very secluded off the coast of Australia, but nearer to Antarctica. The island used to be thriving with researchers and research ships and sites that they were collecting things from. There was like a whole plethora of people who used to live on this island. They're also protecting this seed bank that has all of the most important seeds from around the world in case we ever need it to restart civilization. So they're preparing for the final weeks on this island and tidying everything up to get ready to abandon it. Essentially, this random woman washes ashore. Just like this really beautiful exploration on grief and climate and nature and how we as humans are connected to nature, and the way that the author like interweaves nature with these characters and makes nature personifications of each of them and like ties them to certain creatures and flowers and plants. It was beautiful. I've talked about this book a lot in various videos. Just absolutely adored this, and I was completely caught off guard by how much I loved this. It will probably be on my top books of the year list. I just absolutely adored this. I will definitely be reading the other things that she's written once there were wolves and migrations. I've heard great things about both of them from Books and Lala actually. 4.5 out of 5 stars. I feel like I need to bump that up to a 5 because I've talked about it so many times. And if you watch our live show, Connor does a very Connor thing, and he goes on a very long tangent about something very depressing and makes me cry, and some of the others on the live show also tear up, which is just like very in Connor fashion. So highly recommend. Loved this book. Next book that I read, Finley Donovan Digs Her Own Grave by El Casamano. This is the 5th book in the Finley Donovan series. I obviously read all of them. I obviously enjoy them. I wouldn't be on book 5 if I didn't. But this started with a woman who was kind of down on her luck. She had just been divorced. She's a single mom now taking care of 2 kids. She's having writer's block. She's in a Panera speaking with her agent. A woman across the Panera from her overhears their conversations and thinks that she's a for-hire killer, not an author talking about a book pitch. So she tries to hire our main character Finley to murder her husband. I do believe that there is a suspension of disbelief that needs to happen, but there's so much fun and there's such a good time that like you should try it. You should try to suspend your disbelief for the fun. So many shenanigans, so many hijinks, so much ridiculousness, but also a really, really fun time. The first 4 felt like a really nice overarching story, and you could definitely stop at book 4. Book 5 does feel more like singular story in its own right. And then I wonder if like moving forward 6, 7, however many books we get, be more contained to like one book. That's how book 5 felt. You get some callbacks to some of the things that happened in book 1, so I wouldn't like necessarily pick up book 5 to start with, because I do think that there are some important plot tie-ins to the first book that come back around in book 5 that we hadn't heard of in the last, 3 books in the middle. One thing that I notated in my review here is that the author, I do need to know who told the author to Google synonyms for jail, because I feel like maybe she mentioned jail one too many times, and someone said, hey, let's switch up this word choice, and so the author chose to use words like clink, cooler, and slammer, which did feel like weird word choices for the 80-year-old woman that she was babysitting, and also the suburban mom of 2. Give it a 4 out of 5 stars. It remains a fun and ridiculous time. And the next book that I read, I have a lot of unsolidified opinions about, and we'll get to why in a moment here, but it is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, which is the newest release that came out this year. This was our book pick for May, and due to a lot of scheduling conflicts, we never got around to doing a live show for this book, so I never got to fully flesh out my feelings on it, and I went into that live show with like a lot of conflicting feelings on this book, and so I don't really know how I feel about it because I never got to really like fully talk it out and like hear their opinions and like how they felt about the book. I enjoyed it, but also I didn't enjoy it. Like, it was a fun time, but also not fulfilling. It reminded me a lot of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, who I know did not invent the main character writes a biography of a secret life story of an, like Hollywood infamous icon. Like, I know that that's not unique to that book. And this felt like it could have fallen in that same vein, but like didn't do it as well. I would put them in the same category of books. Like if you like one, then maybe you like the other, but I do feel like one does it better than the other. Like, I just didn't think that this book had the same emotional punch the way that Evelyn Hugo had. Evelyn Hugo, the main characters are obviously Evelyn and her life story. Like, that is the focus of the book. And then you're following the interviewers and the Today cast like a little bit more passively. Whereas this was the inverse. The interviewers, the two main characters, Alice and Hayden, are both vying for this opportunity to win this project. The main character, Margaret Ives, is a historical figure similar to Evelyn Hugo, and she's put out a bid for whoever can win her over to write her biography life story and like share her secrets, because she's been out of the public eye for years. Very similar to Evelyn Hugo. However, they're the main characters. Their love story is the main story. It's not Margaret's love story. So why do you care about Margaret's story? You know, it just didn't feel like it was balanced very well. And also in Margaret's story, we start so far in her history. We go back to like several great-grandfathers before her to kind of set up how she becomes this powerhouse, powerful publishing newspaper industry magnate family. I don't know if that was necessary. I don't know if it added a lot to start that far in the past. Like, maybe we should have started more recent to Margaret's story. I appreciate the ambition that Emily Henry had going into this. I liked that she was doing something different than her standard romance. It like shook things up a little bit. I'm glad she challenged herself and tried something new. And I don't know how I feel about this. I just don't know. And then the main characters are enemies, but then very soon after, they're romantic with each other, and then it happens really fast. I didn't really understand why, because we don't get the main male character's point of view, Hayden's. We only get the female Alice's, and Alice is kind of an insufferable character. She's very toxically positive. At this moment, it's still not rated because I don't really know what I want to give it. It wasn't like a bad book. I don't know what I feel about this. If you have thoughts or opinions, I would love to know in the comments down below, because I don't really know what to do with that book specifically. And then the last book for this video, I did not read as many in these 2 months. I read some like longer books and some things that took me a little bit longer to get through, and also I was so busy in May. May was such a busy month. The last book for today is Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. This is the sequel to An Ember in the Ashes that I mentioned earlier that I'm rereading through the series, so I obviously continued my reread and read the second book as well. I don't really say much about the plot because it's a sequel. I already described the first one and the plot from that, so can't really say that again. That seems a little redundant. My feelings are, I'm still enjoying this. I think I'm still enjoying it more than when I read it the first time. I remember the third book being like specifically slow. Expand the world a little bit more here. We also get a third point of view. We really enjoy her addition as a point of view. So I really enjoyed this installment, and like I said, I'm really excited for the third one. I'm most excited for the fourth one because I haven't read it before and I want to know how the series ends. I really like some of the relationship dynamics that start to play out more in this one. I gave this a 3.5 stars. I did round it up to 4 in both situations, but I did say that I would rate it the same. So that's very encouraging to know that 10 years later, these books are still holding up for me and they're still a fun time and I'm still enjoying them. It speaks to like the craftsmanship, readability, and like staying power of these books. I do have two very old book talks for books 1 and books 2 that I can link on the screen, but I can't promise they're very good. I tried to rewatch them when I finished the books and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. They're pretty bad. They're there if you want more in-depth, spoilery, yelling in your face opinions, because I was yelling in your face. Those are all the books that I read in May and June of 2025. I'd love to know what your thoughts were in the comments down below if you've read any of these and what you thought of them and if you enjoyed them. And if you want to follow me anywhere else online, my Instagram and Blue Sky handles are on the screen here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'll talk to you very soon. Bye!